The National Desk, America's News, now.
It looks like a scene out of a doomsday movie.
Hurricane Beryl hits Jamaica as it barrels towards the Gulf of Mexico, where it could be headed next, as at least one U.S. governor prepares for the worst.
He's going to continue to make a strong case for his agenda, and that's what you're going to see.
Not going anywhere, President Biden refutes reports he's thinking of stepping down. What this means for his campaign as new polls show potential trouble ahead. Then sticker shock for your holiday barbecue. Just how much more it'll cost you to host this year's July 4th festivities. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David, and right now Jamaica getting hit with hurricane force winds as Hurricane Beryl is passing over Jamaica right now with its eye while brushing the south coast of the island nation. And you can see right here a live look at the Kingston Harbor where the hurricane is, and it appears the camera feed is in fact down as a result of the strong winds and rain, but you can just see that low visibility as they get slammed. The 3 million residents on the island have been under a shelter-in-place order for the past 12 hours as Beryl remains a Category 4 storm with winds up to 140 miles per hour, bringing more than 8 inches of rain in some areas.
The government has ensured that all the necessary steps have been taken to ensure that the country, manage the passage of this really major hurricane, the first one we've been having in almost 40 years.
Beryl is expected to downgrade as it continues on a path to the Cayman Islands, but remains a hurricane when it hits the Yucatan Peninsula and Belize late tomorrow. The storm's path is a little less certain after that, but Mexico and southeastern Texas, they are expected to be in the crosshairs. Meanwhile, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is preparing for the storm to head north after its stop in Mexico. Some models predict Beryl to spin towards the United States over the weekend. Governor Abbott directed the Texas Division of Emergency Management to issue an advisory notice to be ready for immediate response if necessary. And right now, more than 30 million Americans are at risk for severe thunderstorms in the central U.S. The Central High Plains has the highest risk for very large hail and severe wind gusts. Scattered flash flooding is also possible between eastern Kansas and the Ohio Valley. 129 million people, a bigger number, under heat alert right now as the dangerous hot weather continues to hit the west, the south, and also the central U.S. The National Weather Service says the combination of heat and humidity will create extreme heat conditions over the next few days. The southern plains, Gulf Coast, mid-Atlantic, and California will likely experience dangerous heat levels through much of the week. Heat index values are forecast to reach up to 110 degrees or more. We're also tracking a wildfire in Northern California that has now burned more than 3,500 acres since it started yesterday. The Thompson Fire, about 70 miles north of Sacramento, is still 0% contained. At least 13,000 people were forced to evacuate. Officials say several homes have been destroyed. There are no reports of injuries. The cause of the fire right now under investigation. Arizona and Nebraska voters will get to voice their opinion on abortion rights come November. Advocates in both states secured more than enough signatures for a ballot measure, and it marks the 7th and 8th states that will have abortion as an Election Day issue this year. Nevada put abortion on the ballot on Friday, and Arkansas could be the next state to do so. Activists there are planning on submitting their signatures for a ballot measure this week. A 4th person is confirmed to have the bird flu, this time in Colorado. The CDC has verified the patient got the virus from their work as a dairy farmer after coming into contact with cows with the H5N1 strain, also known as avian influenza. The worker had reported mild symptoms. The CDC was sent samples of their blood work to confirm the diagnosis. The patient has now recovered after receiving treatments with antiviral medications. Kansas's largest school district has to make some major changes in response to a Justice Department investigation that found discrimination against Black and disabled students. As part of the settlement, Wichita Public Schools must implement new policies to better care for disabled students and make sure no one is discriminated against. The deadline for the changes is January 1st. Chinese nationals have been crossing the border into the United States in historic numbers. Tonight, the White House says it plans to send hundreds of them back, a process that's already started. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzau.
It's just the latest chapter in the changing face of immigration in the United States. CBS's 60 Minutes capturing the trend earlier this year of migrants from China entering the country illegally.
Over 4 days, we witnessed nearly 600 migrants, adults and children, pass through this hole and onto U.S. soil.
The shift in numbers has been profound. The U.S. Border Patrol apprehending 342 Chinese migrants in 2021, a number that grew to nearly 2,000 the following year, and then skyrocketed, already surpassing 31,000 for fiscal year 2024, with several months to go.
Nearly all of them are being released into an asylum process that will take years to conclude.
But now, a shift. The Department of Homeland Security just announced it oversaw a removal flight, the first since 2018, conducted in close coordination with the National Immigration Administration of the People's Republic of China, part of President Biden's recent executive actions to secure the southern border.
If they choose to come without permission and against the law, they'll be restricted from receiving asylum and staying in the United States.
According to Border Patrol, many Chinese migrants use human smugglers. And while the vast majority appear to come for economic reasons, there are growing fears some may intentionally come illegally to avoid high-level background checks.
The Chinese government is only going to tell us as much as it wants to tell us. If you wanted to evade the vetting that the 9/11 Commission indicated was absolutely crucial to Homeland Security, sending individuals to the southwest border and having them cross legally into the United States would be the best way to do it.
Now, overall, I should say, President Biden's changes in border policy appear to have been followed by a drop in encounters at the southern border. Still, those numbers are more than double what they were in the years 2017 to 2020, Amira.
Very interesting, Christine. And when it comes to the Chinese migrants that you were referring to in the story, do we know why there's been such a huge increase?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few reasons. The economy there has not been great. Millions of people are still suffering from the implementation of the so-called zero COVID policy, which resulted in the closure of so many businesses as well as citywide lockdowns. And there is also evidence of a crackdown on any sort of open society there. So a lot of people simply trying to escape that.
All right, Christine Frizzau, thank you for that reporting live from Washington, D.C. Popular weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy have been linked to an increased risk of a rare form of blindness. A new study in the medical journal JAMA Ophthalmology found that about 10 out of 100,000 people taking those drugs may experience the problem. It is a form of optic neuropathy that can result in sudden painless vision loss in one eye. The study was limited to a small number of patients from one specialized medical center. So experts note that this may not apply to a broader population and cannot prove definitively that the medication causes the condition. More than 4,000 pounds of liquid egg products are being recalled due to misbranding and undeclared allergens. The USDA announcing that Michael Foods issued the recall because the products contain milk, but it was not placed correctly on the label as such. The products were sold in 9 states with a use-by date of September 16th. Consumers should dispose of them immediately or return them to the store. In January, Washington state lawmakers expanded the definition of illegal street racing beyond a direct competition of 2 vehicles on a public road. And now they have expanded who is liable for a street race to anyone in attendance of watching an illegal road event. Just how expansive is the new law, and will it deter the dangerous road games that we're seeing today? The National Desk's Paul Rivera in Seattle with more.
We have shown you time and time again the video from these street takeovers in the Seattle-Tacoma metro area. Car shows that are illegal, that happen late at night, and sometimes lead to even more serious crimes. And people end up getting hurt. They could even get killed.
Yeah, you'll see tons of videos all over social media and YouTube and on the news from other states and other parts of even Washington State, where people are shooting off guns, people are doing donuts, pedestrians are getting struck, they're hitting light poles.
He's being arrested for reckless driving.
The Pierce County Sheriff's Department certainly not a stranger to these street racing events. Sergeant Darren Moss says now a new state law says even if you show up to these events and aren't driving, you can face a charge or a citation.
Everybody that's at one of those events, if you're encouraging it, if you're blocking the road, if you're the one that's racing or you're drifting, you all can be cited or arrested.
At this parking lot in Spanaway, you can see the tire marks all over. Moss says this is a place they get complaints at.
I imagine these are like younger kids that think they're still invincible.
One man who was working nearby gave his reaction to the law.
I definitely think it's a good deterrent, you know what I mean? Especially it's really about people's safety.
For law enforcement, that's the goal. This time, not only focusing on the drivers, but trying to stop the crowds of people from going to these illegal events.
Well, the defense has rested in its case in the New York bribery trial against Senator Bob Menendez. The New York Democrat decided not to testify. Prosecutors say Menendez misused his power in exchange for hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gold and cash. The senator maintains he is innocent. The cost of a July 4th barbecue has hit a record. Just ahead, how much more you're ponying up this year and the biggest culprits behind the bump. Then holiday travel expected to be record-breaking. How many Americans are hitting the roads and the skies this week? And later, how crews in California are preparing for possible power outages from dangerously high temperatures. We're back in just 90 seconds. The Biden administration pushing back on fresh reports alleging the president is weighing whether to continue in the race for the White House. This as Biden looks to turn the tide on the growing concerns over the future of his campaign. National correspondent Matt Galka joining us with a look at the latest polls that could pose a problem.
The president confided in at least one ally that he's weighing whether or not to continue in the race. It was a bombshell headline from the New York Times Wednesday, citing an anonymous ally who says Biden knows he needs to perform well in the public eye this week. Both the Biden campaign and the White House were quick to deny the report.
Look, that is false. There are a number of rumors floating out there. The president is in this race to win it.
The president is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race.
Texas Congressman Lloyd Doggett is the only sitting Democrat to call for the president to end his campaign. House Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez told our sister station K2 in Portland, Oregon, she thinks the election has been decided.
We all saw what we saw. You can't undo that. Truth, I think, is that Biden is going to lose to Trump. I know that's difficult, but I think the damage has been done by that debate.
Reuters reports 25 House Democrats are preparing to call for the president to step aside if he seems shaky in the coming days. Biden is speaking with Democratic governors as his campaign continues to try and weather the storm and assure members of his own party he can continue on. The speculation is rampant about what might happen if the president bows out. A CNN poll from this week showed Vice President Kamala Harris running just 2 points behind former President Donald Trump in a hypothetical matchup. The same poll had Biden trailing Trump by 6 points. Republicans have apparently taken notice of the potential momentum behind Harris, too. The National Republican Congressional Committee put out a new ad blaming the vice president for the border crisis. Before the ad asks, is this who we want to be president? The president has multiple chances to try and rebound this week. He'll tape a sit-down interview with ABC on Friday while also appearing at a rally in Wisconsin that day. He'll also appear at another rally in Philadelphia over the weekend. For the National Desk in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Matt, thank you. An Italian appeals court has upheld the 2019 murder convictions of 2 men from California charged in the death of an Italian police officer, and their sentences were also shortened. Originally given a life sentence, Lee Elder Finnegan is now sentenced to 15 years in prison. His associate, Gabrielle Natal Horth, will be serving an 11-year sentence of aiding and abetting a crime. Italian officials say Officer Circiello Rigo was stabbed to death by Finnegan during a cocaine bust sting that went wrong. And tomorrow is Independence Day. Stocking up for a July 4th barbecue, it has hit a record high. The American Farm Bureau Federation says a cookout for 10 people will cost 5% more than just last year, about $71.22. Last year, for perspective, it was at around $67. And we are now up 30% from where we were just 5 years ago. I spoke with an economist with the American Farm Bureau about what items are driving the surge.
So that 30% in 5 years is a pretty big number, and it's definitely causing some stress, at the grocery store checkout line. This year, we saw price increases in nearly all items on our survey. The largest increases were in the price of ground beef, which was up 11%, and in the price of lemonade, up 12%. Constricting cattle supplies has driven the price of beef to record levels, and citrus greening, it's a disease that kills citrus trees, has led to a smaller lemon crop this year. All these things contributed to an increase in prices. If we look at overall inflation, this has also contributed to the increases in prices for other foods like chips, burger buns, and many others.
And gas prices looking lower when we compare it to last year. The average cost for a gallon of regular gas, $3.51. That's coming in for today. While this is a slight tick up from yesterday's $3.50, it is a decrease from where we were last year when it was $3.53 a gallon. Gas Buddy predicts prices for tomorrow to drop to $3.49, which would be the lowest July 4th price in 3 years. So that's good news. And tonight, AAA predicting a record 4th of July travel week with 71 million Americans on the roads or in the skies. The National Desk's Katie Soltz is in Charleston, South Carolina, where they're seeing a big bump in traffic amidst a hot travel forecast.
Big numbers at Charleston International this week.
To see the uptick in travelers on last Friday, and what we've seen is we've been averaging at least about 10,000 passengers per day as of last week.
Compared with last year, that's a 12% increase in the number of flyers in and out of the airport, including a family of 12 going home after a big anniversary celebration.
Travel uneventful so far. We got down here no problem.
To a family flying out to Greece.
We go every year.
According to the TSA, they're among the expected 32 million to be screened by the agency between the end of June and early July.
Our expectation is we're going to see nothing but more travelers come through our doors between now and the end of this travel period.
And with tens of millions of travelers comes millions of pieces of luggage to pack and screen.
Just packing bags. We checked last night on the apps, and now we're here putting our baggage together.
Getting it done right, the Federigo's family packed properly. Unfortunately, not everyone is heeding the warnings. Yesterday, Charleston International TSA agents confiscated the 25th improperly packed firearm this year. Last year, there were a total of 31 firearms found in carry-on luggage.
Really ask for everybody to give yourselves a lot of preparation for coming to our airport.
Not only making sure firearms are correctly packed and declared, but making sure other items are proper and legal to travel with. An early arrival time is key, so try to get to the airport up to 2 hours before your flight.
We know with the increase of passengers that are coming through, it is going to increase the wait time somewhat.
Well, LeBron James and his basketball-playing son, Bronny, set to make history as the first father-son duo to play in the NBA simultaneously, let alone on the same team. The NBA great has officially re-signed with the Los Angeles Lakers just days after his son was drafted to the very same team. LeBron will extend a 2-year contract with a no-trade clause. The deal brings him back for his 22nd season in the league and means that he and his son will take the court together, something that's never been done before. And we're going to get to see the two in action when the regular season kicks off in October of this year, coming up soon. Meantime, over in the WNBA, rookies Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark teaming up for an all-star game that you probably won't see again. Both rookies were selected by a combination of votes from coaches, players, fans, and the media to play on the all-star team. Clark led with the most votes from fans, receiving over 700,000 votes, while Reese came in 5th with over 300,000. They'll go up against the Olympic team. They'll go up with the Olympic team on July 20th. And coming up, police have to report when they come across illegal immigrants under a new Tennessee law. The arguments for and against this change right after this. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
Law enforcement in Tennessee now must tell federal immigration authorities if they come across someone who's undocumented. This could mean people run the risk of being deported even for a traffic stop. This includes people who have been here for years.
And so our concern with this law is that it's going to create a lot of fear in the immigrant community.
Supporters of the law say this is all about safety.
So we've been seeing more and more cases where people are actually being assaulted and some people even being killed by those undocumented individuals.
Immigration advocates say because the language is broad, the new law is targeting immigrant families.
Power outages can happen with extreme heat. And with temperatures soaring above 110, PG&E Vice President Joshua Sims says crews are prepared.
Now we're putting our crews all throughout our region that will help support if there's a heat-related outage.
PG&E says this heat wave is bringing extreme heat conditions, only seen 18 times since the company started tracking weather in the 70s. That's why people who live in the valley say they're worried about blackouts.
I'm definitely afraid because I've seen it happen before. I'm originally from the Midwest, and they did that many times.
Charles Smith, who lives in Tulare, says he works at a gas station, and customers have told him they're concerned.
We have a lot of seniors that come into the station, and they are afraid that if the power goes off, they don't know what they're going to do because they can't take the heat like this.
It's often the busiest time of year for Charlie's Fireworks.
Business has been real good. It's picking up now. The next 3 days will be crazy for the 4th.
The owner says the pandemic has led many to do their own 4th of July fireworks shows from home. So much so, they ran out of supplies early last year.
Sold out at noon on the 3rd last year.
They stocked up ahead of time this year, anticipating supply chain issues and in the hopes that they'll still have some stock left over for those last-minute shoppers on the 4th.
We're selling a lot of fireworks right now.
Most of whom won't be from South Carolina, where Charlie's Fireworks is located, but instead from North Carolina, just a few miles down the road.
Probably 90% of our business comes out of North Carolina.
There's a stark difference in fireworks laws once you cross the border.
Coming up, a move you don't see in most tennis matches. The reason this player gave for smashing his racket on his knee at Wimbledon. Right on the other side. Rublev versus racket. It is the tennis meltdown caught on camera. Just take a look at this video. Andrei Rublev, during his first round match at Wimbledon, smashing his racket on his knee after his return went out of play during the third set of that match. And this is the second time we've seen this in a month from this tennis star, who had a similar outburst during the French Open. Afterwards, Rublev said he just needed to let out emotions and said that now everything is fine. But he never was able to regain his composure after the moment, and he went on to lose the match. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. Safe travels and happy 4th to those of you en route to celebrations. Thank you so much for watching.